My name is Randy Howell, and you're listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
And I'm Robert. In every episode, we're bringing you faith stories and fishing memories from some amazing members of the fishing community.
So join us as we shed a positive light on all things faith and fishing. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. I'm Cam.
Hey, and I'm Robert.
And Robert got back just in the nick of time. He his little box down there disappeared for a minute, and I was like, oh no. And then he came back just in time. So Robert, how's it going, brother?
Yeah, man, it's going pretty good. Just clicking along. Just baseball season has started back up, and my girl is running cross country, so we got stuff going on every day, every weekend, and then trying to fish a little bit in between and work and cut grass, but it's going good. I've been able to get out to the work pond there quite a bit, catch some good fish, and did some more fishing today, which we'll talk about in a little bit. What about you? How you been doing?
I've been doing all right. I'm really tired. I was telling you earlier, I had a crazy work schedule this week, so I'm still recovering from that a little bit, but doing pretty good. Not quite as full of a schedule as yours, but definitely a time of year that is pretty busy. Before we jump into too much, I do want to say thank you to Savior Outdoors, Atollas, Mr. B Lure Company, Jay's Jigs, Omnia Fishing, and Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle for supporting the show. They make a lot of things happen, so we're excited to be working with them. And make sure that you go check those guys out as well. I also got to do a little bit of fishing. I did not get out in the kayak, but I did do a little bit of fishing. Well, like you said, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. But the podcast itself is doing really well right now. We are, I did some research into analytics earlier this week, and we are on course for the podcast side to do a whole lot better this year than we did last year, which is fantastic. We're in September, and we're already like 100 listens away or something from matching last year on the podcast platform. But we are not doing as well this year on the YouTube side of things. And I don't know if that is just from the way things are being shared. I don't know if it's because we're not doing a good job of promoting the YouTube channel or what. But if you're ever listening to an episode of the podcast and we start talking about things that we see, a guest starts showing a particular lure or something like that, head on over to the YouTube channel and see what we're talking about. And if you're like me and you listen to podcast after podcast after podcast and you never actually see the faces and you want to know what these people look like and see how wrong you are with the face that you have envisioned, head on over to the YouTube channel and check that out. That's something that I do a lot with podcasts and like radio shows and stuff. Like I hear the voice over and over and over and over and over again, and I know that voice. And whenever I see the face for the first time, I'm like, that's not what they're supposed to look like.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And I was thinking the podcast is doing better because they can't see our faces, and the YouTube is doing worse, probably because we've gotten uglier over the past year than what we were last year.
I had not thought of it that way. I hope that's not the case, but the podcast thing. Paul Roberts was one of those, actually. Whenever I saw him for the first time after hearing his voice for so long, I was like, that is not what I thought he was going to look like at all. Actually, he might have shared the story whenever he came on the podcast. with you a little while back, but I was over at Outhouse Tackle, and I kept hearing this guy talking to Jerry. He was getting ready for an upcoming tournament, and he was talking to the owner there about Falls Lake. I was like, man, I know that voice. I look over there, I was like, I have no clue who that is, but I know that voice. And
Yep.
I don't remember what it was he said, but something he said, I was like, that's Paul. That's Paul Roberts. And I went up to him and I was like, you're Paul, right? He goes, yeah. And I don't recognize you. And I was like, he's like, I don't remember your name. I was like, that's because we've never met.
Yeah.
And we got to talking and everything. But yeah, that was one of those times where I was like, man, that face doesn't quite match what I was expecting. But yeah, let's go ahead and thank a couple sponsors real quick, and then jump into the stories that we have to share this week. Few things ruin your day on the water as bad as losing gear. But with the retrieval devices for fishing rods, action cams, bow fishing bows, and more from Save Your Outdoors, you don't have to let dropping your stuff ruin your day because you can get it back. The pressure-sensitive filter keeps water from rain and quick dips in the water out, but it lets water in when your gear goes overboard to release a float attached to your gear by 60 feet of line so you can get it back. Go to SaveYourOutdoors.com to learn more and try some for yourself, and use promo code FNFP15 to save 15% on your order. That's SaveYourOutdoors.com and promo code FNFP15.
A huge selection and crazy fast shipping is already enough to turn heads as an online tackle shop, but Omnia Fishing sets themselves apart with their ambassador program. With Omnia, you can send in fishing reports for your local lakes that recommend baits, structure, tactics, and gear. And when another angler takes your advice and purchases something from your report, you get credit for it to spend at Omnia. The best part means that with Omnia Fishing, you can shop by lake and purchase baits and gear that are proven to work where you're fishing. To get started, go to omniafishing.com and use promo code FNF15 to save 15% on your first order.
All right. So you mentioned that you had an interesting fishing trip this weekend. Let's dive into that first, because you had. I'm itching to find out what you learned in your expedition.
Yeah. So Old Town came to Raleigh to do a demo in conjunction with Great Outdoor Provisions, and they had all of the Old Town kayaks at your favorite lake, Lake Crabtree, and I was able to demo three of those, which was the EPDL, the Salty, and the MK. I don't know the number to the last one, but it's the one with the only the trolling motor, no pedals to that one.
The Autopilot?
Yeah, Autopilot.
Okay.
Maybe that's right. So I knew that they were coming to do that. So I got off work. I loaded up my kayak and fished for a while. I got there before it actually started, fished for a little bit, and then once that started, trolled over before they got super busy. Saw our buddy who's been on here, Jay Jackson, and Dontrell Sullivan, and they are both Old Town team members, and shot the breeze with them for a little bit and talked some kayaks and some tournament fishing, and there were some other local people there, and just shot the breeze with them for a little bit, and then took those three kayaks out for a short spin, long enough to get the feel for them and to find out some of the things that I liked better and some of the things that, I didn't like as well. So I think the most surprising was I didn't really care as much for the EPDL as I thought I would. And I think it's probably something you have to get used to because it's not really intuitive the way the motor is set up to work with the pedals, because you can turn it to zero and it's just a standard pedal kayak. It doesn't assist you. But then let's say that you want some assistance. You start pedaling and then you can tap it up. It goes up to level 5. So each level you can feel it kick in a little more. But I guess in my head, I thought it would maybe still go without me pedaling, and that's not the case. As soon as I stop pedaling, the motor stops too. So there's times where I just don't want to move my legs, like I don't want to have to move my legs for the motor to work. So that to me was kind of counterintuitive, but maybe once you got used to that, you may like that better, or I might like that better. But
right. Did you get a chance to play around with the cruise control feature that they've got that's supposed to be like fully motorized?
I did not. I didn't play around with that. So maybe that's the part that I was missing. I did see that button on there, but there was quite a few people waiting and I didn't want to seem like I was hogging it. So maybe the cruise control button is what I was missing on that.
Yeah, the cruise control is supposed to be fully motorized, but
so that option is there. I just didn't know it. So that makes a little bit more sense because I wasn't aware of that. I did see the button, which would make sense. That would be what it does. And the only other thing that I didn't like about that is there's no spot lock. So I'm thinking if I'm having a motor and I'm going to pay money, I'm going to buy something with a motor. I do like the spotlight on the XI3. And then the Autopilot has the spotlight on it as well. So,
right.
And the Autopilot is pretty similar really to what I'm in now, which is I have a bona fide P127 and an SS127, and that's pretty similar to that. The biggest difference to me is the deck space on that Autopilot is freaking huge. Like you could get up and walk laps around the thing, and
are you in the 13.5 Autopilot?
I don't know that.
Okay.
Maybe. But there was like 8 of them there, and it all kind of ran together because I'm not an Old Town guy, so I should have been probably taking better notes. But the deck space on that was phenomenal, and I don't even know what you would do with that much deck space, but it was pretty nice to be. Every once in a while, I do start to feel a little cramped. I mean, I can stand up and fish in both kayaks I have without a problem, so that helps. But I think just being able to put your feet out straight in front of you, because there's no pedal system, and the motor is far enough in the front that I can't reach it with your legs. It's basically where most kayaks' front hatches are, is where the motor is.
Right.
So I did like that. The stability on both of those was great. The last one I tried was the Salty. I think that was the 13-foot Salty, and I really like that one. If I had to pick one of the 3, it would be the Salty for sure.
Okay.
Because that was the easiest one to pedal. The pedals were really easier than my bona fide, and it was faster than my bona fide.
I was going to ask on all 3 boats what the speed was like.
Yeah, so the first 2 kind of matched with the motors. They were about 4 miles an hour, which is pretty similar to what I get in the bona fide with the XI3 on there. I do have an NK180 that goes on the P127, but I really haven't got the top speed on that yet. The only time I took it was a practice day on Cape Fear. But that day I went and put in south of Lillington, and the water was so shallow that I didn't run at full speed. I was afraid I was going to hit something, and I haven't taken it back to a lake. And I haven't got numbers on the side of that kayak. So the last tournaments I've been going without a motor because I don't want to put the motor on it without the numbers,
Right.
which I've registered it. I'm just waiting on them to send the numbers, and then they needed another piece of documentation. And I did that like a month ago, and I still haven't got anything. So I'm probably going to have to take a trip to the NCWRC and try to get that straightened out. Yeah. But definitely the salty is the one that would probably best suit me. And I liked all three of those though. So it was a fun day. I just kind of went to support Don Trail and Jay, and it's a good time I knew all those kayaks would be there, and then I got to fish for a couple hours, but I didn't get any bites, so I didn't get any of your secret honey hole spots.
No, if you fished the lake at all, you weren't in my honey hole.
Yeah, I know you go way up, not on the lake stuff, but I didn't have time to go that far, so I just
I mean it's a half a mile to the mouth of the creek one way.
Yeah.
So it ends up being a good way, and here lately we've gotten a little bit of rain, so you might have been able to get back there, but it gets so shallow in late summer because whenever we don't get rain, that it's hard for me to get back there, and I don't have anything underneath my kayak like a pedal drive or motor or anything. So it ends up being pretty rough. But I have gotten a chance to get up close and personal with the Autopilot. It was the 13.5 foot version, and you're right, man. That is a massive boat.
Yeah.
And I will say it is heavy as all get out. It is not enjoyable to pull up a boat ramp. But I didn't get on one and fish it, but I've helped somebody get theirs up a boat ramp a few times, and that is a monster of a boat.
It's a big boat.
Yeah, for sure. But I was curious to see how you felt about those old towns, being a bona fide guy and everything. I was really curious to see what you thought of the EPDL and that electric assist. Cause I don't know if you're somebody who does the e-bike thing, but, I didn't know, because it's an interesting concept. It's not one that would suit my needs, but, or my budget, to be completely frank. But just curious. And I was curious to see what you thought of your time on Lake Crabtree.
Yeah, it was good. I know the one thing I did like, and I started thinking about it when I was driving home, and I made the comment to Jay, on all of their kayaks that have pedals, the pedal drive integration into the kayak is much better thought out and better engineered than I feel like the native or bona fide system, which is the same system. To put it up and down is super simple. You unlock it and you pull it up and it's up. And then when you put it down and you lock it and it's down. Whereas on the native system, you have to line the propeller up, and then you have to you have to remove the cover that covers it. You have to remove the cover. You have to line the pedal up, and then you have to pull it up, hold it up with one hand, and then put your cover back under it for it to sit on the cover so the pedals are up. So I've gotten pretty efficient at it. It doesn't bother me anymore. But then when I got in those, and I was like, oh, this is way easier than what I deal with. On the flip side of that, when I was driving home, I was like, but if I want to use my kayak without pedals, it's pretty simple just to take off and put the cover back on it. You have a regular paddle kayak without pedals. I would probably be certain, I'm not an Old Town guy, but I'm probably would be certain that there's you can probably buy a cover for that hole, and you can probably take the pedals off of those the same way. I just don't know that. And obviously,
right. I was
when
getting
you're
ready
trying
to
to
say,
set,
if nothing else, I'm sure somebody has 3D printed one and is selling
Yeah.
it out there.
Yeah, I'm sure that exists. Obviously, when they're demoing it, how good at paddles is probably not the big selling point at the moment for those
Right.
kayaks specifically. But it was a good time, and it was a good way to spend the afternoon, and checked out that lake some, and it was a pretty cool place. That's the first time I had ever been there. So I like the little drive around to the side, and it's got an easy place to put your kayak in. It wasn't very crowded. There were a few people on sailboats later on in the day.
Yeah,
Messing around in the middle.
the NC State Armada practices out there.
Yeah. But they didn't bother me at all. I wasn't fishing out there where they were doing their stuff. So
yeah, it's interesting to watch them though.
Yeah.
As I'm paddling around, I can hear the coach blowing the whistle to tell everybody what to do, and I can go out there and watch how they're maneuvering the sailboat and everything. That's pretty cool.
I've been on Wheeler when the crew team is out there, and that's pretty
Okay,
interesting to watch as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's interesting. I did not go out. I'll be completely honest with you. I forgot about it until after, but I feel like I had some sort of other obligation. What day was it? Was it Saturday?
Oh, it was today.
Oh, it was today. That's right. I had to work. That's why I wasn't there.
I worked. I just got off early, so
yeah.
I was able to swing it. No baseball and no cross country, so that was good.
That's right. I do remember seeing that now, but yeah, it as much as I would have enjoyed being able to get out there and kind of test some of those boats out, none of them are going to be, ones that are easily car topped by one person, or easily affordable by my budget.
Yeah. I think Jay had one of his 10-footers out there, and that looked pretty good too.
Brian, the creek crawler, I think he's in a 10-footer, one of the Sportsman PDLs, and I just don't know that I can go to a 10-foot boat.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm probably a little too big for that.
I've been in a 12-foot boat for so long that I don't know how I feel about it. I'm sure, there would be times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. But then there would be other times where I'm like, man, I really wish I had a little bit of extra length and not as much width so that I could go a little bit faster. But yeah, the, being out in the creeks and stuff, it wouldn't be so bad, but being out on the lake in the open, it would be a little, I would feel how short it was. I was going to say in my kayak, I can take my feet off of the foot pegs and stretch my feet out, like in between the foot peg and the like the center console, and I have just enough room to do that. I don't think you would be able to do that because you're a little bit taller than me. I'm 5'10", and I'm about as tall of a person that would be comfortable in my kayak, I think. And I don't have long legs, so but it's the perfect size for me. But if I were any taller, I don't think I would say that my kayak was the perfect size for me. I think I would be a little bit cramped.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe I like my legs closer to the pedals than most tall people, but I never have my seats all the way back, and I didn't today in any of those. Well, the one didn't have pedals, the Autopilot, but the other two had pedals, and I was a little bit further than halfway back, but I still had like 4 notches on their seating system, where I first put it back too far. And I do that in the P127 as well. So I think all the kayaks have really plenty of leg room for the taller people. At least the Bonafide and the Old Towns seem to. I'm almost, well, I think I'm 6'3" now. I shrunk an inch. When you get old, you start shrinking. But I'm 6'3" and my legs are super long. So all of them had plenty of room. So yeah, it was a good time. It was good to see Jay and Dontrell. They were doing their thing, helping people in and out of the boats. A lot of the Old Town staff was there. I mean, it was really, to me, it seemed like good attendance, and I only stayed around there from maybe 4:30 to 5:30, and it went on from 4 to 7. So I'm sure I could see them motoring around across the way on into 7 o'clock. So I'm sure they got a good turnout from it.
Nice.
I will say to anybody listening who is, who sees somebody coming to your area that's going to demo kayaks, that's where you can really see, what style and what different brands, and pick out things that you like and pick out things that you don't like. I'm in a Bonafide because that's the best one that fit my budget that I found on Facebook Marketplace when I first decided I was going to upgrade and buy a fishing kayak. I found a SS 127. It could have been Old Town, a Hobie. It was just a good deal that was close to the house, and I've just stuck with them ever since. So I really haven't even been in a whole lot of other kayaks besides my own, and then the sit-in duck hunting kayaks that I had before these,
right?
Which were Ascends from Bass Pro or Cabela's. So if you see somebody or a company or a brand that's going to be close to you that's going to demo some, I highly suggest go out, try some different products. And it doesn't mean you have to, go buy one the next day, but you can keep that in mind when the one that you're in wears out or you get ready for a change. Then you'll really know maybe my next move is going to be with this company or that company. So if anybody comes close to you, I highly recommend going out and testing out some of the boats, kayaks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am also in the same boat. I've had a few kayaks, but those are the only ones that I've ever really been in. So I haven't been in any that were considered, nice kayaks by most standards. I've been in the Sun Dolphin Journey 10-footer, which I do not recommend to anybody ever
I had
for any reason. Say what?
I had one of those too for my son. He was, when he was smaller, that was fine. It was plenty stable for him. And he actually caught his PB out of that thing. It was like a 6'8" at Johnson Pond.
Nice.
Got that in, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it at the time how bad of a kayak it was, but I mean, whenever I went to put my hatch in, I didn't have a hole saw yet. I cut the hatch with a pocket knife. Like that's how chintzy the plastic is. And then I went from that to West Marine Pompano, which is just another fancy name for the Perception Pescador. It was the exact same mold. And then I went from that to a Pelican Catch 120. And then that's whenever I learned that stability is not more important than paddle ability in my book. And I ended up going from that to the Perception Pescador Pro, just because it was similar enough to the Pescador, which I loved, but it had the nicer seat. It was a little bit wider, had a few of the features that I was looking for, like a transducer slot on the bottom and stuff like that. So definitely not a crappy kayak by any means, but also not, it falls into that category of budget kayak. But it's nice. I do really enjoy it, but I will say, I don't know if I've said it or not, but I will say I'm about as tall of a person as can truly enjoy that kayak.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's thank a couple more sponsors, and then we will jump into my fishing from this week. And it's a little bit different than going out in a kayak and all that stuff, but I'm excited to talk about it. So let's jump into it soon. If a fly rod is your weapon of choice, check out Autopilot. Their Fly Caddy is the most convenient way to get your favorite flies to the water, or just keep them handy by clipping it to your hat, truck visor, backpack, rod case, or just whatever. You can also bundle it up with flies from independent fly tires that Autopilot has teamed up with through their Fly Light project. Choose from bundles specializing in redfish, carp, saltwater, or freshwater. Head over to atollas.co, that's ATOLLAS.co, to get your Fly Caddy today and use promo code faithnfish15 to save 15% on your order. That's faith the letter N, fish the number 15 at checkout for 15% off.
Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle is one of the largest canoe, kayak, and cycling retailers in the Southeast, with a huge selection of kayaks, canoes, bikes, and all the accessories needed to experience paddling and cycling comfortably and safely. Get Outdoors helps to expand and educate the paddling community through their free demos held on local lakes in the Greensboro, North Carolina area, and through in-store clinics and on-the-water courses and demos. And we'll even get your new boat rigged up for kayak fishing for you. Stop by the shop in Greensboro, North Carolina, or check out shopgetoutdoors.com to be wowed by their selection.
All right. So this weekend, we were dealing with a rather grumpy 2.5-year-old which happens sometimes. He is fantastic, but he has his moments where we have to remember it's okay to be two. But he has been asking for a while to go fishing, and for this reason or that reason, weather or whatever, it just hasn't worked out. And Sunday afternoon, I was like, all right, Caitlin needs a break. She needs some time to do some stuff. I'm going to take him out, and we're going to go do some fishing, and we're going to have some father-son bonding time, which is something we've been needing a lot of lately, because he is very much in a I want nobody but mama mood. So I try not to let it hurt my feelings too bad whenever I start the day with no, I don't want you. But he comes around pretty quick once he gets woken up and everything. So we asked him if he wanted to go fishing, and he immediately lit up, and he ran and he got his toy fishing rod and his stuff. That, like, we have this little set that has like the little wooden fish with the ring on it, and the toy fishing rod with the little plastic treble hook on it that he can go. And I was like, do you want to go catch some real fish at the lake? And he was like, yes. I love it whenever he gets his like charge up yes, but he charges it up. He's like, and he like stomps down when he says, he's like, yes, with a big stomp. I love it. But so we went to Walmart on a Sunday afternoon to go get bait, which I don't recommend Walmart ever, much less on a Sunday afternoon. But I was like, they've got the little spot in the back where you buy your fishing license. There's always somebody there. We can just ring up there and leave. It'll be great. So we go and we get our bait, and we go to find somebody. There's nobody to be seen. And we go up to the front, and every line has about 10, 15 people in it. And I look down at my watch, and I'm like, man, we're going to have to do this after nap. And I told him, I was like trying to get him prepared all throughout. I was like, all right, we've got our bait, but we're going to have to go home and take a nap, and we'll go to the lake whenever we wake up from nap. And he was not too happy about that, but we made it through it. He did not nap whatsoever, but he did end up taking a little bit of quiet time. And just, he pulled every book off of the shelf in his room, and we looked on the baby monitor, and he's sitting there in like just this pile of books, sitting there reading every book he's got. But he had some quiet time, and he did not scream the entire time. So that's a win. So we have it set up to where the little sound machine, like, it comes on with a green light whenever it's time to wake up from nap or from sleeping. It turns green, and it has like some bird sounds that chirp. And he's sitting there, and I'm watching him on the monitor, and the green light turns on, and the birds start chirping, and he looks up at it and goes, "Time to go fishing," and runs to the door. And I open the door, and he's like, "It's time to go fishing." And so he's all excited. We're on our way to the lake. I take him down to Lake Raleigh, because they've got a nice little fishing pier, and I'm looking at it, it's like, man, the water is really, really muddy today. Because we had all those storms come through and everything, and it rained all day Saturday. But we were looking, and it was like, well, we're going to see what we can do. And we proceed to have just an amazing day of fishing for bluegill. It was the kind of fishing trip that it's like, man, I was really burnt out on bass. This was fun. Yeah. We caught about 20, 25 bluegill in about an hour and a half. We had stretches where it was literally as fast as you could get the bait down to the bottom, you were pulling one back up. And Henry, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, he put them back by himself. So he's finally gotten over his fear of getting pricked again. He got poked one time. He was fine with it. Like the very first fish that he ever saw in person, he grabbed it off the line before I got it unhooked. Like he was reaching for it and everything. And but he finally got over that. I taught him how to hold it and everything. And one flipped out of his hand, and he was kind of looking. He's like, "What happened?" I was like, "Well, he jumped out of your hand. He's scared. He wants to get back into the water." So after that, every time I unhooked one and handed it to him, he would take it, and he would look at me and say, "It's a little bit scared." It's like, "Yeah, the fish is a little bit scared. Let's put it back in the water." And he would go, "A little bit scared." But we had another fishing milestone. He caught a fish all by himself. He opened the bail on the spinning rod to let the bait drop straight down on the little fishing pier that they've got, and closed the bail, felt the fish bite, and reeled the fish in. The only thing that I did was keep the fish from smacking the pier on the way up, because he was not very steady with the rod. And I took the hook out and handed him the fish, and that was it. I did take a little short video of like I was holding the fish, and was like, "Who caught this fish?" And I panned the camera over to Henry, and he's got his juice box. He's taking the straw out of the juice box, and it's just like squeezing it into his mouth. It's like, "Henry caught this fish." So
that's good.
Yeah, that was a fantastic trip. It was funny. I was wearing my cashin shirt, and a guy came up to me, as I was getting Henry into the car, and he was like, "Hey, I saw your shirt. I didn't know if you would want this." And he handed me a 2022 Cashin product catalog. And I was like, "Man, I really appreciate this." And, but I'm over there all the time, and, you can save this for somebody who might not be familiar with all of their stuff. But, so I don't know. I didn't catch his name, but he said he's down there all the time too. So, yeah, Cashin, you got a sales guy out at Lake Raleigh. So I don't know what his name is, but if you've got somebody that frequents Lake Raleigh, give him a pat on the back. It was funny. I was talking to him for just a minute, and I guess I was taking too long or something, but Henry grabbed me by the beard on both sides of my face and turned my face to his, and then plants a big kiss right on my mouth. And the guy that was talking Cashin was like, "Well, I can see y'all are having a good day, so I'm going to let y'all get back to it." But, but yeah, it was one of those fishing trips that it's like, I really needed this, and I really needed it today. And so glad that we were able to make that happen.
Yeah. It is good to have those trips where, you're not beating your head against the wall trying to figure out what the fish are going to bite. Yeah, I mean, if you put a hook down there and a worm on it, you're going to catch some fish 99% of the time. So it is good to go and have those days, and especially some downtime, with your kids. And, that's one thing that I don't think anything else matches it. Not in my book anyway. Going fishing is one of those things where you definitely create a bond with whoever you're fishing with, whether it's a group of guys going in a setting or camping and then fishing down a creek, or, it's your family member, your son, daughter, or your dad. It's just one of those things, and sounds like a day that you'll remember for a long time.
Oh yeah. And I will say, whenever you're going fishing with a young kid, a toddler, snacks are king.
Yes.
And it was nice. We had a stretch of, probably 30, 40 minutes where we were the only ones on that little pier. So Henry could run around a little bit, and he would run around and grab some blueberries or some watermelon out of his little container, and pound his juice box, and he would run back over every time I told him we had another one. And it was funny. We had people that would come and they would sit down and they would fish for about 5 minutes and then get up to leave and say, "Yeah, we came out here yesterday too, and I couldn't get anything to bite. I don't think there's anything biting in here." And I've already set the hook on a fish, and I'm waiting on this person to leave so that they, and as soon as they get out of eyesight, I'm like, "All right, Henry, we got another one. Let's reel this one in."
Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun, and I was able to keep Henry entertained with fishing for an hour and a half, which is a new record. So excited about that. But I mean, the kid loves fishing. He loves all things outside. He loves, and right now everything is anything that's a stick or whatever, he's pretending he's fishing with it. So it does my daddy heart proud for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, and I love watching him, and he's one of the little fish in his toy fishing set is a bass. He wants so bad to catch a bass. So that's going to be our goal next time we go. This time I did take one rod with a little bit bigger hook, and one of the smaller bluegill that I got, I put on a hook and put it in there and let it do its thing for a while, but didn't end up catching one, but that's okay. I we had a great time, and we'll end up with a bass at some point, and he'll be so excited. But every time he pretends to catch a fish, it's a bass. So we'll definitely get out there and get him a bass at some point. But right now I'm just enjoying the fact that he is enjoying spending time with me doing something I love. So just one of those times where it's like, yeah, I love being a dad.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool thing for sure. But the whole thing where you started out where he gets up and he wants his mom, that whole thing goes in cycles. So 6 months from now, he'll get up and he'll only want you, and then she's gonna get her feelings hurt, because she's feeling, it, and then the next 6 months it'll switch back to her. That goes on until they leave the house, and then I guess probably sometimes after that too. So I still do that with my oldest son as at NC State, and he'll talk to my wife, and I'm like, he didn't call me, so that doesn't stop. But that streak goes both ways. So if I feel that way, so a lot of times I'll just send him a text or I'll call him because, it's like I said, that goes both ways. So
yeah, so far it's been like there will be a day where he's in a daddy mood here and there, but most of the time it's just, I want mama. I want mama. And Caitlin's like, I know that this hurts your feelings, but know that it's hard being on the other side of it too. It's exhausting being the only person that you're
I'm sure that is true too.
So yeah, shout out to Caitlin for being an awesome mom and always sticking it out with Henry whenever she has no more energy, and absolutely nothing I do will satisfy. Shout out to her for that.
Thank you.
All right, man. Well, this has been a good episode. It's not quite as long as some of the other ones, but let's thank our other sponsors, and then we'll close it out in prayer.
Sounds good.
Mr. B Lure Company is making high-quality handcrafted lures and has been for 30 years right here in the U.S. Using all-metal components, owner and gamakatsu hooks, and silicone or frog hair skirts, Mr. B is pumping out some awesome spinner baits, jigs, buzz baits, underspins, and more, including some of the most unique bladed jigs on the market. To fill up your tackle box, go to MrBLureCompany.com, that's MRBLureCompany.com, and use promo code faithnfishnpod1x10 at checkout to save 10% on your first order. That's faith the letter N, fish the letter N, POD, so Faith and Fishing Pod, just like our Instagram handle, 1x10. If finesse fishing is your comfort zone, something you want to learn better this year, or just something you like to tie on as a Hail Mary pass, Jade's Jigs has everything you need and more, and it's all eco-friendly and lead-free. With an awesome selection of baits and colors, they've got a variety of techniques covered for you. Finesse jigs, underspins, Nico weights, Ned rigs, and more are all waiting for you at jadesjigs.com. And while you're there, use promo code FNF10 for 10% off your purchase. That's jadesjigs.com and promo code FNF10 for 10% off. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to just share in our experiences of trying new things and our love of fishing and sharing that with our sons. And thank you for the opportunity to spend time with our children and with our loved ones and the people we care about and complete strangers that we just get a chance to meet today out on the water, talking about fishing, talking about what it is that we love and just spending time in your creation. Thank you for that. Thank you for the people that surround us and the people who you put in our lives whether they are there to bring us closer to you or push us in a particular direction. We thank you for those people. For everyone who is listening right now, thank you for what they mean to us. Thank you for what they mean to so many people. Thank you for putting a show on in our lives and through this podcast, and just reaching through this platform and touching lives. We thank you for the way that you present yourself to us, God, as we go about our week until the next episode. No matter when it is that somebody is listening right now, we pray that you meet them where they are and provide what they need. And if we are able to be a part of that, thank you so much for allowing us that opportunity. God, it's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, Robert, you got any last things to add?
No, man, it's good. We got, I guess, the last couple of tournaments coming up. I'm see if I can try to get to the Gate City deal. Got baseball this weekend, so can't fish Heiko with CCKF, but I am going to try to do the Gate City one unless we go to the beach. And if we go to the beach, I'm going to try to catch a bull red. So either way, that weekend I'm going to have some fun. And then got the Cashin Kayak Masterclass coming up. I think that's September 30th, I want to say.
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah. If you guys haven't checked that out, when this comes out, you'll still have like a week and a half. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. Maybe a week.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, to get signed up for that. So I know spots are going fast.
And if you want to know more about it, a few weeks ago we had Chelsea Shandrick on. Check out that episode. She gives you all the information you need on what's going to be going down for that day. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, it was a good time last year, and I'm sure it will be this year too. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And that's about it, man.
All right. Well, y'all, that is going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Faith and Fishing podcast. Faith and Fishing is produced and hosted by Cam Steele and Robert Randolph, and is sponsored by Savior Outdoors, Jay's Jigs, Get Outdoors Pedal and Paddle, Mr. B Lure Company, Atollas, and Omnia Fishing. Don't forget to join the Facebook community, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever app you're listening on. That's going to do it for this episode. Y'all take care, and God bless.